Welcome to revops or whatever. Today's episode is called "The Report is Broken Again," which is a sentence that lives, I feel like, rent-free in the mind of every ops person who's ever made the mistake of building something you thought the user could manage. So this episode is kind of about dashboards, reporting logic, filters, and their fragile magic. Building something nobody understands, hearing that it doesn't look right. And so my guest today is somebody who's probably been asked to add a chart and a pie chart or a dashboard or something and had to build it, rebuild it, and then delete it just out of spite. So welcome, Adam. This is literally our first time ever having a conversation. So I think it's pretty cool that it's on the podcast.
Outside of Slack, yeah. It's pretty bold of you.
Could you tell everyone, including me, a little about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Adam. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, which is a pretty cool place. I've been in revops or whatever for like 10 or 11 years. Kind of a mix of in-house, fractional, full-time consulting, back to in-house, did a stint at a PE firm and an acquisition arm. A lot of different stuff, kind of a lot of a little or a little of a lot, depending on how you look at it. But mostly in the SaaS space. Yeah, a lot of work with earlier stage companies, mostly like the Series A, Series B kind of range. Sales and marketing ops titles, rev ops titles, a little bit of it all. But common theme is just fixing stuff that is either considered broken or that somebody else broke and then trying to make it better.
What do your kids think you do?
Well, one's only 2 months old, so he probably doesn't think a ton. And then the other is 6, and he thinks I do meetings.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what my almost 4-year-old said. He said that I do a lot of meetings. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. He probably just thinks I just talk. Actually, not even, because half meetings I'm in, I barely speak. So it's dad's on a call, and we just have to be quiet, and that's kind of it. That's all I do.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love meetings where I don't have to say anything. That's the best kind.
Sometimes it's biting a tongue versus not actually have anything to contribute.
Why did I pick you for this topic today?
Because I shared a photo in the Wizards of Ops dumpster fire channel of a report from a Salesforce org that had about 20 locked time filters with the date range of this quarter, despite it being now our subsequent quarter from which the report was run.
Is that like the worst thing you've ever seen, or have you seen worse?
Specifically reporting?
Yeah, specifically reporting. Yeah, I don't.
It's up there. The scary part about that one is that somebody clicked into it, into this element from a dashboard that they had already filtered the dashboard. And if you know Salesforce reports, you know that when you do that, it carries the dashboard filters into the report, which is great if you're trying to drill down into and look at detail rows. It's not great if you're using that as a jumping off point to make modifications. And so if you modify it at all and then save it, it saves that, or like that locked filter that carried from the dashboard gets saved to the report. So if you have either time ranges or industry or some other cohort and you save it on that report, the next time you go to view that dashboard, like with the larger data set, people will start saying, this is broken. No, it's doing exactly what you told it to. It's just that you told it to show you the wrong thing.
What do you think people think happens when they click into a report? Like, I guess, who originally built that report and who is the audience? Let's start there.
I don't actually, no, I built it. I built the original thing that was meant to be viewed. It was the audience was customer success leadership, and I don't remember. I think I may have gotten the question of like, hey, this isn't showing me what I expect it to. Like, why isn't this thing working? And it was because of that. So I guess, to play the don't blame game, bad on me for not like saving the report in a folder that wasn't modifiable by users that weren't in RevOps.
Do you feel like you had more success with report filters and just like static reports, or do you have like a set of users that you feel like consistently can handle like dashboard filters and dynamic reports?
I mean, there's definitely both. I think there's you very quickly in any org, you will find your power users, and from there you can segment them into people who should have power and people who shouldn't. And the ones that are like, okay, you're dangerous and you kind of know what you're doing, and if you think you're going to break something, you come to me first. Fantastic. Those are the best, because you can give them you can kind of give those people some guardrails and say, look, leave these two filters alone and play with anything in the middle, and like you can probably get to very close to what you're after. And if not, you kind of go back and forth and figure it out from there. And then you have the ones who are dangerous and shouldn't have the power, and those are the ones who come back to you and go, this report's broken. Like, then you open it up and you're like, I don't know what you did. And so there's users that fall into both camps. I think, if I recall correctly, the user in question that sent me this issue that led to this conversation is more of the former. I think the whole locked filter thing from a dashboard into report, that's one of those maybe kind of gotcha things on a Salesforce admin exam where like if you don't know about that, you'll never think to check, and then eventually it will be considered broken. And so I'm willing to give this person a pass in that case. But it was still a very funny thing to look at.
How do you feel about it now being your identity?
It's fine. I've been called worse.
You've been called worse than this quarter?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. Have you ever been responsible for breaking the report?
Yes. At another company, as part of a much larger opportunity kind of quote to cash process overhaul, one of the things that our team didn't have the ability to do previously was co-term deals, like from a CS perspective, without just manually entering an amount field or an amount value onto the opportunity. And since we had moved into a state of actually using products and line items in Salesforce, once you add line items, right, it kind of commandeers the amount field. It becomes the roll up of all of those product line item values. And so we needed the ability to, okay, great, CS is selling a deal 3 months into a contract or with 3 months left of a contract, right? We only want to charge the customer for the appropriate amount of time. And so did some flow trickery to basically account for the number of days remaining on the contract term, which isn't super groundbreaking, pretty straightforward. But with that, there needed to be a backfill to all of the amounts for previously closed won opportunities to account for this, because if we just said, okay, this formula is now live, then it would have changed the value on a lot of old opportunities. And I don't remember which way it needed to go. It was something like you either needed to multiply a value by 365 or divide it by 365 to get the day amount. And I did the opposite on a data load. And so very quickly I had a thing from our CFO at the time who was like, hey, I think our revenue dashboards, are a little off. Can you take a look? And I looked, and it was just like, holy shit, we're doing like 10x in revenue what Apple is doing, and that just didn't really seem plausible. So I needed to very quickly undo the backfill. So it was less about I broke the report and more about I broke the data.
It's so funny because I literally did the same thing, almost exactly doing the same exact thing. Like my client, we recently rolled out co-terming, and in one of the formulas in the flow, we have like this really advanced quoter. It's like just massive. And in one of the formulas, I divided by the term length instead of multiplying by the term length. Luckily, I caught it.
Oh, see, I didn't catch it because I don't check my work. I just waited for somebody else to go like, "Hey, this is a pretty high visibility thing. You might want to take a look at." And it was right. And I was very wrong. Thankfully, it was just one quick data load away from being resolved, but that was a big oops moment.
Yeah, no, I honestly feel like that's an easy mistake to make. Like I said, it literally happened to me a couple weeks ago. How much of your like actual job is reporting, and then like how much of it is supposed to be reporting, and then how much of it is actually reporting?
I think right now it's not supposed to be a ton, and maybe is more than it should be. I work for a company called Converska, which is in the AI space, and we've been around for a pretty long time. And with that comes a very old Salesforce instance, which kind of has pros and cons to it. There's some skeletons in the closet, but those skeletons have been there for a very long time. So sometimes you can just sort of leave them. But the ARR structure and the CPQ environment has been in place for quite some time. So a lot of the sort of baseline type reports that one would get asked for in this sort of role, I think are already accounted for. The typical like this quarter, next quarter type stuff, with the basic forecasting things, even around like CS, like upsell and downsell. We do our churn and kind of NRR calculations a bit wonky in my opinion, but all that stuff is like already in place. So a lot of the sort of operational, hey, are we pacing? Maybe not pacing, but like, are we? What's our forecast? Where are we? That sort of stuff is already accounted for, and on the marketing side as well. MQL, SQL type dashboards have been in place for quite some time. So I don't get a lot of those sorts of requests of like how many MQLs do we have last week. That's all pretty well taken care of. So the reporting that I get to do is kind of self-driven, and it's a little more like, let me go see if I can find the answer to a rather interesting question versus people coming to me and saying, how many of X or how many of Y did we do in some time frame? That's largely taken care of. Of course, there's still the, like, hey, we need help with putting together some sort of customer list or prospect cohort and things like that, which can be a little nuanced because, when you have multiple data vendors and you end up with like 3 different industry fields and stuff like that, there's just always going to be those kind of like, okay, yeah, you tried, great job. There's a field that you don't know about that I have to add in. And that kind of stuff is pretty straightforward. So yeah.
Did you watch the episode on forecasting?
I started it earlier this morning and then I got distracted, so I haven't finished.
Do you think forecasting is real, or do you think it's made up?
I think it's a directional tool. I've been involved with and helped build models that were very accurate, like within 10% or so on a quarterly basis. And so I think there's definitely value to it of, okay, hey, something more than let's just stick our finger in the air and see which way the wind blows is definitely needed. I think really in any sales org. The earlier on in the company, I think it's less needed, because when you have a very small sales team, or when founders are still very involved in a lot of the sales cycles, they generally have a much better pulse of internally, like they're involved in each deal, so their deal sentiment or their ability to go, okay, 3 of these 5 are going to close. Like they know the number, so you don't need it in a formalized report or dashboard. Of course, as the company grows and you get a larger sales team and you start doing more advanced sales motions like co-terming and things like that, there definitely is a need for anybody in the revenue team or beyond to go, I would like to know, because I have a bonus tied to it, or to help give me direction in my work, or just because I'm curious, how is the company performing in a given segment of the business. And so there's definitely it's needed. I think with a lot of things, like it's not going to be the magic bullet. Like you could have the world's most accurate forecast, but like great, all that's going to tell you is if you're above or below target. You still need to go and do something about it if you're below. Or if you're above, then great, figure out how to replicate that motion and do more of it. So is it made up? No. That's attribution. Attribution is all made up.
We actually touched on that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Is it made up? No. Is it like witchcraft? Kind of. Is it needed? Yeah.
Very good. What is something that you think not enough people are using, are reporting on?
Um, I mean, maybe more people are doing this and I don't know about it. I think having good pacing is really important. Like,
Yeah.
knowing your delta, like within quarter, right? It's okay. We have $1 million target. We've closed 450. Okay, well, great. You have 650 left to go. But you're in the beginning of May. So are you on pace? Like, are you like, how are you, trending towards that? So I think you're getting that, figuring out, okay, well, where should I be on any given KPI or whatever it is, at any given point within a time frame, and tracking that is more important than maybe the actual, the overall delta for the quarter, because that allows you to course correct within the time frame if possible. Now, if you have a very long sales cycle, if you have like a truly enterprise sales motion, right, you're talking 6 to 9 months, then that becomes less impactful in quarter, but it allows you to then make decisions for the following quarters and go, okay, great. If we're going to miss this quarter, there's very little we can do to change that right now, but can we turn our attention to next quarter or the quarter after to go, what can we do right now to kind of juice our pipeline numbers a bit, and bolster those early kind of top of funnel activities, so that to give us a better shot at one of those quarters, and vice versa, right? Of course, we go, okay, hey, look, we're way over indexing this quarter, so if we have a couple slips, it's sort of okay. But also, what did we do last quarter to put in this position? And how do we make sure we do the same thing again, so we can keep replicating this motion? Or do we just need to adjust our targets, right? Do we need to raise our targets to make them a little more aggressive, or whatever it is?
Awesome. Do you have snapshot reporting in place?
We have some stuff in place, but it's not being used. So
Okay.
the real answer is no.
I feel like that's definitely like an underutilized feature. Is snapshot
It
reporting.
definitely is.
Just don't know how to use it.
I think it's harder to use. I think that's also another thing that comes with like business maturity, is like you don't always need that until you are a much larger org and you're talking about sales teams of maybe 50 plus and lots of different teams and big territories and lots of different meaningful cohorts, not just industry or revenue band and things like that. But cool, show me like how do we do with construction in EMEA last quarter versus healthcare in Europe? Like that's where I think you start answering or needing to ask a lot of very in the weeds type questions, and that's where that kind of thing comes in handy. When you're talking about a predominantly US based SaaS org, I don't know that there's a maybe I'll get flamed for this. I don't know that there's a ton of value in it though.
Okay. Which dashboard do you feel like you spend the most time in?
The ones I build for myself that no one else looks at.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Those are the ones that actually probably tell the truth. I feel like a lot of times people are like telling a story that isn't necessarily true.
Sometimes, or you try and kind of fall into the pitfall of like, great, I'm going to craft a very robust story with some dashboard, right? You start at your top left and you work your way to the bottom right, and it tells like this beautifully orchestrated thing in two axes. And sometimes other people look at it and just go, yeah, that's fine. I need the 3 numbers that are on the top. And you go, okay, well, that's what I'll give you, because that's what's going to get used until inevitably, a question comes up that you can't answer with something further down on the dashboard. But that's, we'll save that for a later day. That kind of thing, create the thing that your leadership teams need, and make sure that those ones work and work well. And then, the other stuff that I spend time is like any sort of like audit type dashboard, or exceptions or error reporting, like whatever you want to call it, where it's like, I always describe it as like, great, this dashboard should read zeros across the board. And anytime you have a 1 or any number on it, it's a problem, and you need to go investigate those things. And that's anything from like, integration failures, or like API limits, or like pipeline hygiene, or MQLs missing a date stamp or something like that. I think those dashboards are super valuable and get away from the kind of traditional like revenue reporting type stuff, but have equal importance in my mind.
Yeah, my career has gone Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and then back into Sales Cloud. And definitely when when I was very involved in Service Cloud, we did a lot of report subscriptions where I try to explain to people the goal is that you never receive this report in your email, because we filtered it to send only if there's something on here. And there's like an escalation, or something's beyond SLA by X number of days, or, like you said, an integration has gone really wrong and there's data being messed up. So I think that's actually a really great call out, because what we typically do, I think, in our day-to-day is a lot of, we want to see things on the report. It's, why isn't my op on this report? Why isn't my MQL on this report? Why isn't my this on this report? But there is also like that a ton of value in the reports where you don't want to see anything on there.
Definitely. And I mean, that probably breaks down into two categories of, the data hygiene stuff, and then like the more technical, like system error type things. It could probably all be on one if you as the ops person are the audience. But I think I've certainly been asked to build something for marketing or for demand gen, where they want to see, hey, can you show us all of the MQLs that are missing these fields, or all the the SQLs that haven't been touched, like miss SLA. Yeah, that's probably a better way to describe it. It's like SLA misses and data hygiene misses. And those can obviously be tailored to very specific audiences, whether it's like a sales leader who's like, I want to see all deals that had pushes last week. Grateful. Like hopefully there's none, but there might be a few, or like how many are missing, a mutual action plan or whatever it is.
I want to know if you do this, or if I'm the only person that does this. When you're creating a dashboard and you want to do a comparison, do you do the past in dark and the current in light? I always change the past to dark to indicate that it's the past. Is that just me?
No, I'm like strongly in light mode, gang. I don't like anything dark.
What? So, oh no, yeah. I'm dark mode on everything.
Can't do it.
Why?
Don't know.
See, this goes along with your seafood opinions, I think.
No, I like sunshine and rainbows, so I want to see bright colors on everything.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Do you ever use like the card, like the blank cards that you can add on the dashboard to like add instructions or add context?
Sometimes, like if instructions, actually that gives me some ideas. No, for if it needs to be like a little bit of text beyond what you can put in the like in the description, or the footer and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, great, like here's a metric, maybe here's what it means, and here's a chart to support it. Yeah, stuff like that I think is really useful. Instructions could be fun, where you have like a big arrow pointing up and you're like, change this date range to make this thing update. That could be neat, but no, I haven't used it for instructions.
I also like using it to like divide it into blocks. So like block up here is like week over week or year over year comparison.
Oh, sure.
Like, yeah, I like those too.
Yeah, I like to. Yeah, everything should be organized where it's like there should be some sort of, it should be thematic in some way across rows or columns.
Yes. And I get really irritated if like it doesn't all fit that way. If there's like an odd number of them, I spend a lot of time like making it all take up the space.
Yeah, I would prefer it to have like an even number of columns, and sometimes that doesn't work out, and then you end up with like, maybe one column has like 5 things you need to show, and the other has 4, and like that can be problematic. I don't have a good way to get around that though. That's just
Well, back in the day, they like didn't even give us those little cards that you could add.
Script. So you just had to deal with in whatever order Salesforce decided to populate the elements. That's what you were stuck with forever.
Yeah, I think it probably took me way longer than it should have transitioning from classic reports to lightning reports. Like I would still just go back and like create a report in classic.
Oh no! Don't
tell anyone that.
Well, you just did. When would you say that you were fully in lightning?
I don't know. I still have clients. I will not shame my clients because I adore them, but I still have clients that prefer to go back to classic.
Yeah, I have some users. We're Lightning org, but there's still certainly some of the users who prefer to operate in classic, and I've been threatening to shut it off now for a while. But
it's hard to support because it's like I'm gonna need you to submit a screenshot every time you ask me for help with something. I don't know exactly what you're looking at.
I need you to try 3 times, then send me a loon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you do do you do much HubSpot work?
A ton.
How would you compare Salesforce and HubSpot reporting? Because I have my own thoughts that I've shared, but I'm curious to hear somebody else's.
It's well, so I've also HubSpot's another one where we talk about like the evolution of like feature parity, right? Like we just kind of talked about that with like the Lightning and the Classic. HubSpot is on, I feel like, such an accelerated timeline of updates. I would say just a few years ago when I first like really got into supporting HubSpot, it was super limited and I found it very challenging to build reports in HubSpot. I would say that probably even just in the past year, it's improved significantly. You can even like add formulas and stuff in there now too, which is great. I think because it is so different than the way that we build reports in Salesforce, that's probably what contributes to making it like more challenging. But I have found that I would say in the recent past, there hasn't been anything that I couldn't do in HubSpot, whereas I feel like in the more distant past, there were definitely limitations.
Would you? Yeah. Well, would you restrict that to the data set that is already within HubSpot?
Would I restrict the HubSpot reporting to the data set that's already in HubSpot?
No, sorry. Your sentiment that that you can answer more questions that you couldn't before with HubSpot reporting predicated on you're only dealing with like the HubSpot native data versus like pulling in stuff from a data warehouse from other sources.
So like potentially putting it in custom objects in HubSpot.
Yeah, kind of. I'm doing a really bad job of answering this. My sentiment has been for a while that at least, like now, kind of to your point, like the feature parity it's pretty close. And you can kind of answer pretty much all the same questions, where I think Salesforce still has a leg up, and it's a pretty big leg up, is when you start talking about aggregating other data sources into CRM beyond just your like native, just CRM native like GTM data. So yeah, are you pulling in usage metrics from product backend? Are you connected to a data warehouse for like marketing ad spend, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I feel like that's actually a really good segue into another question I was kind of thinking of. When do you feel like, and this could be platform specific or platform agnostic, when do you feel like you get to a point where you can't do what you need to do in the CRM and you have to use a BI tool?
I don't know, kind of the same thing. It's like once you need to see your Salesforce or your CRM data next to other data that is not already in platform. Sometimes it's just easier to go, okay, well, it's already in a warehouse over here, and we already have Looker, and we're using Looker for a bunch of other stuff. It's probably an easier motion for me to connect to Salesforce because I know the data structure and I can probably create or write most of the queries needed, even though I don't even pretend to be good at SQL. But it's like, okay, I can probably find a formula. Yeah, I can find a snippet of code and copy and paste it, and then change all the columns to pull in all the opportunity fields I need. Versus asking engineering to help me build a custom integration or use their preferred ETL to dump a bunch of stuff into Salesforce. And then now we're thinking about, well, what's the object structure there? Is it just field level data? Do we need snapshot type stuff? Are we talking about data cloud? Like that, I think that conversation spirals into a much larger, like, oh, we have to reconsider our entire data architecture potentially, versus just going, I'd like to see opportunity amounts next to like how many users are active per customer instance.
Yeah, I think that also brings up another great point too. Like we've obviously, you and I have had a lot of reps in our career. Like we've been through a lot at this point. And so we know that like when you're asked to build something new, like kind of the first thing you want to do is ask about like how do you want to report on it? Have you ever though, back in the old days, built something, but asked to build a report on it and then realized you need to go back and rebuild it?
I mean, yeah, probably. Nothing jumps out right away. I can think of more recent, like I told you so moments, but it wasn't, it was like, oh, kind of the inverse of like I can kind of see the future a little bit in this case, and like we probably shouldn't do it that way. And then all of a sudden it is a problem. You go, well, gee, if only somebody had maybe suggested we avoid this problem.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good like one where I messed it up. Maybe there aren't. I'm probably just infallible.
Yeah, you're perfect. So
Yeah.
as long as we both agree on that.
Yeah.
Have emojis made their way into your reporting yet?
No. I don't have like a moral opposition, but just hasn't been a.
No one's asked for it.
Nobody's asked for it. I feel like it'd be kind of weird if I was the one that was like, "Hey guys, check this out."
Put some emojis on it.
Yeah. However, anyway, I think it's fun. It's very whimsical. Little, most Salesforce orgs could use a bit of whimsy.
Do you have any other great reporting hot takes?
Nah, they're all lukewarm.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Then I guess it's a good time to move on to tab of the week.
To what?
The tab of the week.
Oh, sure.
Do you have a fun tab that you'd like to share?
Like something that I have open currently?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not on this computer. Oh, I mean, I have the replay of yesterday's Italian Formula One race open because I didn't finish it yesterday.
See, this seems like it's a theme. You didn't finish the podcast earlier. You didn't finish the race yesterday. What's going on?
Remember earlier when I said I have a 2-month-old?
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, thank you. I fell asleep during the race, and then there were like diapers or something that needed changing earlier.
Were you holding the baby when you were watching the race?
Part of it.
That's the problem. You cannot hold them if you want to stay awake. You cannot be seated and holding them because there's like something that happens. I don't even know what it is. That like puts you to sleep.
Well, no, he went to bed, and then I tried to finish it.
Yeah, no, for me, like I cannot sit down and hold him at the same time because I will fall asleep. And it could be like exhaustion, or it could be like baby magic, or it could be both.
Yeah, it's one of those like it probably very quickly goes one of two ways. There's no real middle ground there. You're either going to be very awake and they're going to be asleep, and you're going to feel kind of trapped and stuck there, or you fall asleep.
Yeah. So
I'm looking
for the audience
through all my tab groups to see if I have anything.
About, like, how much hours of sleep we're getting each night. We're doing like, the comparison of sleep count.
Yeah, I think I'm winning right now. For whatever reason, Gray's been a very good sleeper the last several nights. Like last night, I think I got like almost a 6-hour stretch. That was pretty cool.
Pretty
yeah,
which has a cold, so it's good right now.
I'm looking through all my no, and then all my tab groups, I have nothing super interesting. They would either just bore people, or they'd be like, "This guy's don't have him back."
So I think I'm gonna have you back because this is my tab.
Oh, right. Well, sure. We can talk about why you're wrong.
So I think we're going to have like a part 2 of this conversation because we had started to have a pretty heated discussion about the right way to prepare seafood.
Specifically crabs.
You're from Louisiana. I'm a Marylander. Yes. And so we feel differently about this. We steam our seafood, and it sounds like you guys boil it. The science, I mean, ChatGPT, as we all know, is never wrong about anything.
It is, yes. It is always 100% correct. I mean, well, for using that as the basis for this, then clearly I'm in the wrong. However, if we're speaking on personal experience, then might have a little something to say about that.
Have you actually had steamed crabs in Maryland?
Never been to Maryland. I've driven through.
Where were you going?
New York.
I don't think they do steamed crabs there. Although I do have this like, I have this like morbid habit, and it's really a terrible thing because crab cakes are like so important, right? Whenever I travel, and I used to travel a lot for work, I would always order the crab cake on the menu.
Bad
And
move.
and I would know that it wasn't a good idea. But it's like this morbid curiosity that I have, and I just can't get over it, where I have to
Yeah.
try it.
No, I know what you mean. I have gotten over it. I scratched the itch enough times where I was like, no, I'm gonna stop doing this. Like ordering, like I will not order gumbo on a menu unless I know that the chef is from Louisiana, or I'm in, or I am back home. Um, there's a few dishes where it's like, you can like jambalaya. It's kind of hard to really mess up. Sure, I'll give that a whirl if I'm feeling interested. But like red meat and the rice, gumbo, I'm not touching it unless it's, you're within a 75-mile radius of New Orleans.
Geographically, where is the worst place you've ever dared try seafood?
Seafood, like as a whole.
Like you were traveling and you ordered seafood and it was terrible. Like this was like, you were like, on second thought, I see why this was a bad idea. For me, it was
I don't know. Dallas?
Yeah. Do not order seafood in Dallas. It's very disappointing.
Huh.
But it makes sense because like, where are they getting it from?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're within like 100 miles, probably even more than that. Like if you're within like a 3 hour, 4 hour, an afternoon's car ride of the coast, you should be pretty safe.
So where is it?
I don't know. I don't venture beyond that threshold at all.
That's a good practice. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I need to be near the water, or else I feel like I'm claustrophobic. It's probably another thing that's like me.
No, my wife and I have talked about this as well. Like we were in Atlanta for something one time. I think it was like one of my friends' weddings or something, and we were like driving around, and for whatever reason, I was just like kind of on edge. I was like, I feel like I'm not close enough to a body water. Like I know there's lakes and stuff around, but like it's just not quite the same. Like it needs to be salty water. And I think like the furthest inland I've ever been is like Atlanta might be. I went to Chattanooga once. That was like a bit further in, and then I don't know. Generally, just stay kind of close to the coast. Utah. I went to Utah for like a night one time. That barely counts. It was in and out. It was overnight. I flew in and I flew right out. So no, I generally try and just avoid places that wouldn't have good seafood to begin with, or at least have access to the food.
Like I thought I was the only crazy person who felt that way, because it's like so hard to describe. Where it's like, oh, I can't even imagine not being near the water. It just like makes me nervous. It like makes me feel weird.
Agreed. And for like the 3 people that are still listening, do you have like a strong preference in geographic region for oysters?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say the Chesapeake Bay, right? Like I can't say anything else. Virginia, I'm gonna regret saying this because I'm supposed to say that everything from Virginia is trash because I'm a Marylander.
Oh, is that a big thing?
Yeah, but Virginia has oysters too.
They do. I feel like I operate on the extremes and with a lot of things I do, but like I like the very far northern, like PEI, like way North Atlantic, super cold water, like much smaller, real small, real sweet ones. And then of course I like the Gulf, like Galveston, like Gulf Coast stuff, like the just giant, like 4-inch, big things of sea snot. Those are really good too.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, it's nice to have the variety of like you said, like the cold water, like really delicate, like nice oysters versus like the big.
Yeah. If you took your, this would be a 2-part question. What would be your like ideal tech stack to manage? Like you mean like a CRM, a map, a sales intelligence tool, and like some sort of iPaaS solution to connect whatever else you have, like those 4.
That's not very whatever. We're back on topic now.
I'm going somewhere with this. Don't worry.
All right, my ideal tech stack. Where am I? Am I like SMB? Am I mid-market? Am I enterprise? What am I?
You tell me. Where do you want to be, and then build it.
Okay. So I think I'm SMB to mid-market. Yeah. I'll just stick with that because it's safe. Because enterprise, like it's
sure.
I'm competing with 16 other people on what our tech stack is at that point. Yeah. So I think I don't remember what all you asked. So I think definitely HubSpot.
Ooh.
And Salesforce.
Both?
And of course, my company's tool Scale Matters, right? So we have a tool, and I'll post the link, and that does full funnel reporting. So we do really great visualizations on that. So we can kind of we can kind of see what all those things look like, and it also helps a lot with data hygiene too. So it like highlights things that aren't quite right, and we actually have like a data hygiene tool that monitors it. And then
shameless plug. So you're going HubSpot for the marketing side, and then Salesforce for post lead conversion.
Yeah. Well, that's hotly debated, right? So
sure.
I think when the leads are qualified, they come into Salesforce and then they get converted.
I like that. We could do leads versus contacts another time, or rather, what is the correct use of the lead object? But we'll save that for a different day.
Okay, we can do that on part 2 when we yell about seafood.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a map, sort of. We have a sales focused CRM.
What was the other thing you asked for?
Give me a sales intelligence tool, and then like an iPaaS or ETL tool.
No, we're doing everything in the CRM.
Love that. Okay, great. Well, it kind of ruins the second part of this question. In that case, because if it's just Salesforce and HubSpot, then draw a parallel between which seafood are both of those.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
HubSpot is shrimp. And Salesforce is definitely blue crabs.
Yeah, all right. Not going to argue with that too much.
What do you got?
Salesforce would probably be at the center, only because I know it better than I do HubSpot. I can't. It's hard to argue with HubSpot functionality anymore. It's definitely not the little brother it used to be. It's very good, but if I'm starting something from scratch, I'm just going to start with Salesforce.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I'm probably skipping a traditional map. I don't know that it's super needed. Maybe
I would do the opposite, and this is going to probably be blasphemy for everybody, but I would probably start with HubSpot, use it as a CRM, and then grow into Salesforce.
But see, so that's given the largely negligible price difference now for a similar feature set. Why would you start there and then grow into Salesforce? Why wouldn't you just go straight to Salesforce?
You are going to get me excommunicated from the Salesforce community for this, but Salesforce marketing tools are just not it.
All right. Well, what would you just go Marketo instead and just really hit yourself?
Gosh, no. I would rather eat boiled seafood than use Marketo.
Yeah. I also don't like Marketo. Okay.
What seafood are they? What in your tech stack?
I think Salesforce is a crab. I think you were right with that. I just glitched hard, so hopefully you heard that. But yeah, Salesforce is definitely the crab. It's the legs because it can reach a lot of stuff and grab onto other things. I really like ZoomInfo. I know it's not like the shiniest or flashiest thing at all, but like you know what you're getting with the data quality. It's like a solid like 7.5. You're like, okay, great. It's never going to be perfect, but it's a known quantity. It's pretty good. A lot of great integrations. There's enough on the like intent and like other fun things. You can build enough workflows between ZoomInfo and Salesforce. I think you can approach other tool functions like Play. Fantastic. It's amazing. Yeah, I get it. It's the Wonder Kid, but like, I don't know if it's quite as like on demand for your sales users. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just haven't used it enough. So I would stick with the old dog in ZoomInfo, and that's probably like ZoomInfo is an oyster. It's kind of hard to crack, but once you figure it out, it's good. You know,
Okay,
it's a little dangerous.
Plus, there's the commitment. When you eat an oyster, you never know what's going to happen next. With ZoomInfo, you're committed. You're in there for the
especially the first time. Definitely, it may come rocketing back up like it did when I was like 6 the first time. However, my 6-year-old will eat as many raw oysters as you can put in front of them.
See, this is good. We're raising the kids well because my kids, they love seafood, even the baby.
Yeah. Henry will. We used to live very close to this like seafood restaurant, and they would do the happy hour, a dozen oysters, like half off or whatever. And we went a couple times for dinner. We're like, cool, grab a dozen oysters, and he would eat all of them. So then we have to get like a second dozen, and we're like, okay, cool. Well, now we're in for like 2 dozen oysters. Not a big deal. We'll also eat as many of them as you can serve. But he kept like asking for more and more. I'm like, hey, bud, maybe like we'll get an entree as well because this is gonna like add up pretty quick. And then he would like ask me, can we go get oysters? Can we get oysters? Like, dude, I can only afford to take you to get oysters like at happy hour because you will eat so many of them.
That's awesome.
Well, I know we're almost at time. I think I have to run. You probably do too.
Yeah. So I think it's time for me to thank my fake sponsor. I think today's episode, I think we're going to say it's sponsored by Joined Reports. For when one data set isn't enough and 2 is too many. Joined Reports, they're not broken. They're just wrong in a very specific and deeply personal way.
Good luck filtering on them.
So thank you everybody for listening. Obviously, thank you, Adam, for joining and having this conversation with me. I am absolutely going to hold you to it on a part 2 where we talk about all kinds of things that we disagree on.
Let's do it.
And make sure you finish listening to that episode from earlier.
That's what I have to go do now.
Yes, exactly. That is what you have to spend the rest of your day doing. And probably that Formula One thing too.
Yeah, I'll put that on in the background.
All right. Thank you so much. Cool. I do really appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners for hanging in there while we went way off track.
Anytime.
Bye.
See ya.